This episode of Simple Civics Greenville County is brought to you by Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, providing free books to children 0 to 5 throughout Greenville County. To sign up, visit greenvillefirststeps.org/freebooks. That's greenvillefirststeps.org/freebooks.
There are hundreds of organizations that are supporting the educational pipeline here in Greenville County. And on Simple Civics EdTalks, we are excited to shine a spotlight on them so that you can get more involved. I'm Catherine Schumacher with Public Education Partners. And today on the podcast, Derek Lewis, Executive Director of Greenville First Steps, and I are going to start with the organizations we know best, our own. Well, Derek and I have been, recording these podcasts for a couple of weeks now, and we thought it might be useful for listeners to know a little bit about why us and how we're coming into these conversations and sort of what our organizations do and our background as well. So I thought we would do this sort of short episode to kind of talk about First Steps and PEP and our connections to education and the education landscape here in Greenville. So Derek, we're gonna kind of go back and forth. Why don't you tell me and listeners about First Steps? What's First Steps and what do they do?
First Steps was created in 1999, and there is one in every county in South Carolina. And so there's a Greenville First Steps, and Pickens First Steps, and a Lawrence First Steps. And our sole focus is getting children ready for kindergarten. So most of what we do in Greenville is fund other programs to improve what they do. So we help PEP with children's books for children 0 to 5. We help the library with some parenting programs that they deliver.
So you're like an intermediary. You're not providing direct programs, but you're supporting other programs.
That's right. Yeah, we hope to improve the capacity of others because there's just so much great work happening in Greenville that it's just easier and more cost effective for us to improve their work than it is to start something new that we're running ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Public Education Partners, or PEP, we function in a similar way. We also do provide some direct programming, but we're also trying to kind of build connections. So PEP was founded in the mid-'80s. So we've been around for 40 years, which is really cool. We had our 40th anniversary in the spring. And we were founded by really the business community and the civic community here in Greenville because they knew that if we wanted to have a great community and a community that we could really be proud of and that was really an engine for growth and inclusion and economic mobility, that we needed a strong public school system. And so I always say that we function as an innovation partner for Greenville County Schools and a champion for public education in general. And we have 3 focus areas. We champion teachers, we equip families, and we advance collaboration. And we do that through a range of programs, working, as I said, both on the ground, but also at the systems level, creating connections so that organizations that are working in the schools can do that work better. And that's what we do.
And PEP is unique. There's not a PEP in every county. And so this kind of the idea of having a nonprofit that is separate from the school district,
Right,
but is kind of aligned with helping the school districts.
Yeah. So, there are other public education partners in some counties in South Carolina. We are the oldest and the largest by far, and we do the most, and we function a little differently than the rest of them. But the way we work in a lot of ways is, we might identify an opportunity in the district, a challenge. Maybe it's how do we find new teachers, or how do we help teachers with classroom management, all these sorts of things. And we'll work really closely with the district to come up with a strategy, a pilot to introduce something new. And then we go out into the private sector to raise the money to pilot that. And then if it works, the district, will kind of absorb it into operations. Great example is the GATE program, the Greenville Alternative Teacher Education program, which brings people who don't have an education degree into the classroom to teach. And that's become one of the most successful strategies that the district has for finding really great new teachers, really terrific retention rates with GATE. So, our funding, we're funded, it's all private funding. So we don't have any government funding, generous individuals and corporate partners and foundations. So that's our funding model. How's First Steps funded?
So we're a little bit of both. So we get an allocation from the General Assembly. Every county gets an allocation based on the number of children in poverty that are between the ages of 0 and 5. And then we are asked to take those dollars and go out and leverage other dollars. And so we will take the $1.2 million that the General Assembly allocates to Greenville and turn it into a $3 million budget by usually going to the Community Foundation or Hollingsworth or the United Way and saying, all right, this new parenting program we want to launch is going to cost $1 million a year. We'll put in $500,000 if you'll put in $500,000.
Yeah. So it's public-private. It's the same sort of thing. It's public-private partnerships. PEP the way that we function is our role is to sort of leverage the public tax dollars that are going into the school system. And I mean, that's exactly how we have functioned for years. So how big is your budget?
So our budget varies from year to year, but it's about $2.5 to $3 million a year total.
And you all are also the pass-through for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So how is that? How does that work?
We are. So Dolly is a unique program in that the perception in the community is that Dolly Parton Imagination Library funds itself. But basically what they're doing is making the cost half as expensive as if it would be if we mailed out books to all of these families every month on our own. So they send us a bill for basically the other half of the cost, and then we just pay that bill.
And the General Assembly has put some money behind the Imagination Library to kind of roll it out statewide, right?
They have. They have approved some funding that hasn't quite been allocated to the county partnerships yet, but the idea was that in Greenville County, for example, it would be $750,000 a year for Dolly Parton Imagination Library to be countywide. And that would be every family getting a free children's book every month until a child turns 5. We're working towards that goal.
I think it's really interesting that you need organizations to sort of connect, to be connective tissue. That's what I talk about with PEP a lot, that we're sort of connections between. And, I get a lot of calls from folks saying, we want to do a thing. We have an idea for something. How can we implement that? Who do we need to talk to at the district? And so we do a lot of that work as well, just to sort of open doors and make sure that they're talking to the right people. Because, the Greenville County Schools is so large, as you and I have discussed before, knowing how to navigate it and sort of how to think through that big question of how the thing that you might want to do fits into the bigger picture, I think is a really valuable role that both an organization like First Steps and PEP can play.
Well, and it's been one of the things I've really appreciated about PEP too, is that you have the ability to know what's going on outside of Greenville County and to talk about like, well, we've seen in Texas that this is how this is implemented. Could we try something like that here? And I think PEP brings to the table just so much knowledge and experience from outside of the community that we could pilot here and it could be successful. I think Make Summer Count is a great example of a program that we weren't doing before PEP was doing it.
Right. And Make Summer Count is our early literacy initiative that was started about 10, 11 years ago that really focuses on how do we get books into the hands of kids to build their home libraries, but also supporting families so that they can do a better job of helping their children read at home, which I know is a theme that we've had in several of our podcasts here, that literacy piece. How do we make it easier for families to support, student learning around literacy, because literacy is the foundation for all of it. So your background, we'll get a little personal. What's your background? How did you get involved with First Steps?
I was a camp counselor at Camp Greenville while I was in college at Georgia Southern. Just fell in love with Greenville and decided that at that point I was going to film school at the University of Texas and decided that was not what I was going to do with my life and ended up working for the Y for about 15 years. And just loved Greenville and loved the Y. I met my wife at Camp Greenville. And so, one of the things about the Y is that it puts you in front of all these other organizations that are doing great work. And so one of the things I was doing was I was on a gang prevention task force. And we were talking about how 10-year-olds were joining gangs. And it just really made me rethink like all this youth work that we're doing is too late. And Hedrick, my wife, who is much smarter than me, has been working in early childhood her entire life. Like she and I just went for a walk one night and I was like, I just feel like I'm on the wrong end of this work. And she said, well, I've been telling you all along that like, if we don't get it right by the time they get to kindergarten, we're too late. And literally like the next week, the job at First Steps came open and I applied and I've been there for 18 years since. So.
Wow. And of course, you also served on the school board for 2 terms.
I did. That was 8 years. I enjoyed 6 of them. And then COVID came and it was a little less fun. But, the school board was really a great experience. And it was really incredible to me how eager people in the district are to have partners to collaborate with them. And just like the community is struggling with how to get the district to partner, the district also is struggling with how do we find the right people who can help us with some of these needs that we don't think are a part of government, right? Like it's not government's job to do all of these things. So how do we find somebody that can help with housing so that we can maybe connect families who are homeless with housing options in the community? And I loved that part of being on the board.
And that's one of the things that we're really eager in these EdTalks to explore is who and what are some of the organizations that are partnering to help do that work with the district, because it is too much for one, especially, a district the size of Greenville. It is too much for one entity to manage on their own. And so that partnership piece is really important. And that's certainly how, I came to PEP. I'm not an educator. My background is in nonprofit. I've been in the nonprofit sector primarily as a fundraiser for a long time, 27 years. But I'm a public school person. I went all the way through the public schools in Spartanburg. Our kids have gone all the way through the public schools here in Greenville. I'm a huge supporter of public schools. I think they're so, so important. And so I was on the PEP board actually. And so that is how, when the opportunity presented itself, and I was kind of ready to dig in, and I knew this was an issue that I would be passionate about. And it's been really fun to kind of see PEP evolve after COVID in particular, to kind of how can we be nimble? How can we meet the needs of the community now? How can we particularly support teachers? I think for PEP, your lane, I would say, is sort of services to kids. And I think PEP, while we do have some programs that work with to serve students, our real lane is teachers and families. And so, helping PTAs, SIC members understand how they can get involved, helping teachers understand how they can understand the ecosystem that they're working in, and how can they advocate for themselves more effectively. So I think that is a really unique role that PEP can play, and it's been a lot of fun over the last 6 years. It'll be 6 years. Actually, oh my gosh, we're recording this on November 5th, and it was yesterday. It was my 6-year
Happy anniversary.
Thanks. My PEP anniversary was yesterday.
I think one of the cool things that PEP has done that we have always appreciated in our family is just, I don't think that there's enough celebration of the incredibly hard work that teachers put into their jobs. And I think PEP has done a great job of really celebrating and raising up the sector. Not just to tell teachers you're valuable, but, to have a night at the drive where teachers can be applauded in the same way that we would applaud, firefighters and public safety folks. But also like the work you're doing with like 16 and 17-year-olds who are thinking about their career options and uplifting teaching as a profession that all of us could aspire to, not just kind of settle for, has just been really exciting.
Well, and I think thanks for mentioning that, because I think, one of the things we wanted to talk about today was what are we most excited about? And so we have a growing partnership with the Future Teacher Academy. We've done a podcast. That was one of our earliest podcasts, is talking with Rachel Turner, who leads the Future Teacher Academy at Greenville County Schools. And how do we find the teachers of tomorrow? And really, again, lifting up and celebrating the profession of educators, because we do need those teachers, and they're out there. That's what's so great about being involved with Future Teachers, is you can really see kids who are so excited. And I think that's that pushing back. I have a lot of strong feelings about folks who say that our public schools are failing. We have a lot of great data that says that's just not true. And obviously we can always do better. And I think that's what these conversations through EdTalks are about. It's the work that you're doing on early literacy. It's the work that we're doing across the K-12 pipeline and beyond. We know there's always things that can be done better, but we also, I think it's important to celebrate the good stuff that is happening every single day. So what are you excited about?
We have always been involved in early literacy and parenting, and I think those are two things that we're going to have to continue to work in. But, access to affordable, quality childcare has just been a real crisis in our community. And, last month we were able to project that we need 4,500 new infant and toddler childcare spots in Greenville County today, just so that 4,500 families can return to work. And so working with the business sector to help them kind of see like there are opportunities for you to build a childcare system on your property and then hand the keys over to a property to an organization that could run it for you. You don't have to be in the childcare business and also the tire business, has been kind of what I think is our big next thing.
And high quality childcare is part of our education pipeline. High quality childcare means you're not just sitting the kid down and doing nothing. Like, it is about engaging and active support. And so I think it's all part of the same sort of the same universe of how are we going to support the whole community. And that's a big issue for teachers too. Childcare is a huge issue. It's part of the reason that when you think about why it's important for us to raise teacher salaries, it's so that they can afford high quality childcare, so that they can be there for our kids and their kids. It's both. So Well, aside from that, I'm really excited about these podcasts. This has been really fun so far. I hope that listeners have enjoyed them. But it's a great opportunity for both of us to kind of talk about a thing that we both really care about, not only as sort of community leaders, but just as people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you saw that connection between, like, I know we've been talking intentionally about it, but so much of these podcasts are about like just helping people understand like these are the things that exist in our community, and this is how you can get involved with them. And so
Right.
whether you're a citizen or a parent or a business owner or a funder,
A voter.
a voter, like these are all things that matter to a lot of our community, and there are ways that you can help out.
Yeah. So I applaud, you've been in the leadership at Greater Good Greenville. It's really exciting to be partnering with First Steps and Greater Good, Simple Civics on these podcasts. And I'm just, I think, grateful for the invitation and the opportunity.
Good job, Catherine.
All right. Talk soon. Simple Civics EdTalks is a joint project of Greater Good Greenville, Greenville First Steps, and public education partners Greenville County.
Hi, Simple Civics Greenville County listeners, Nathaniel here. If you've made it this far, then we think you'll really love our newsletter. Sign up for bonus content, updates, and more right in your inbox. Look for the link in the description that says newsletter to sign up, or visit us at simpleCivicsGreenvilleCounty.org. Find the link in the menu that says newsletter and sign up there. We'll see you again next week.